Alright, hello everyone, this is Crota. Going over Protoss and Terran, I forgot about the Replicant, so I'll go ahead and make a quick note of the Replicant before I move on. The Replicant is a unit that has the ability to transform itself into any non-massive unit that it can see, or that you currently have vision of. So that means that if you want a siege tank, you can grab a siege tank. If you want a medevac, you can grab a medevac. So on and so forth. What's interesting about the Replicant is that it gets all of the technology upgrades of that unit. So if an uncloaked Banshee comes into your base, you can then have a Replicant, and then you yourself will have a cloaked Banshee in order to try to destroy your opponent. It's a very, very fun, very interesting feature that I've seen so far, and I'm really curious as to how it's going to work. The downside on the Replicant is that it doesn't do anything until it turns into another unit, and it's a very expensive unit that I believe costs 200 food, 200 gas, and also costs 4 food, so you got to be very, very careful with it. Now, moving down to the retired units, the carrier and the mothership have been removed from the multiplayer. So, go ahead, just say sorry to those units, but they just didn't seem to make the cut. The Tempest and the other upgrades really found a better place, and that's why the carrier and the mothership has been removed. Now, the Terran army, the Shredder, is perhaps one of the more unique and interesting units that got added to the Terran army. The Shredder is a map control piece that is only effective if you do not have other units there that are not Shredders. What they do is that they generate a radiation field, and in that radiation field it deals 20 damage a second. So essentially with 2 or 3 replicants at a choke point, any Zerglings trying to do a run by will essentially all be destroyed. Now, the weak side of this is that if you have any Terran units within the area effect of the Replicant is not going to initiate its attack. So it does not get added to the Terran Bio Death Ball because it's only effective when the Terran Bio Death Ball is not there. Very interesting. Now, the Warhound is essentially either a downgraded Thor, original Thor, or an upgraded Goliath. It is a small anti-air unit that deals light, that does additional splash damage to light. Because it's small, 1, it's easier to mass, and 2, it doesn't get stuck in between buildings. So that is very, very effective. Now, the ground weapon that it has is a definite upgrade over Brood War's Goliath, because it has a railgun that does additional damage to mechanical units. So when you think about all the mechanical units in the game, I really like what Blizzard did here, because the Goliath has a significant purpose in, say, Terran versus Zerg as an anti-mutilist, but it also plays a different role in Terran versus Terran or Terran versus Protoss, as it is effective against mechanical units. It has a range of 7, so it is very effective at taking down siege tanks, and it also has a movement speed, I believe, of 2.81. I was trying to memorize all the stats, but they're all in fluctuation anyway, so they may change. Now, because of this, and because that I believe they're a non-armored unit, I'll have to double check. They might actually be armored. That would actually make sense if they were armored, or it makes sense if they were light mechanical. What they can do is they can with that superior range of 7 try to take down siege tanks from a distance without cloaking or bottlenecking your Terran Bio Ball. Very effective. Something I definitely wanted to see. Now the Thor has been modified into being that one super unit for Terran. You can only have 1 Thor at a time, and you need an armory and a fusion core in order to build it. But it also has a cool effect that was borrowed from the Odin. It has like an AoE damage. It does 600 damage over 12 seconds, so 50 damage per second. towards structures. It also does 200 damage a second against in a very, very large radius. Very effective. Something that I wanted to see from the Thor. It has a much more unique place now that the Warhound has been added, and we'll see if we see a little bit more fusion core action, because there have also been some significant changes to the battle cruiser as well. Now, moving on to the new abilities, the Hellion also has a transformation that I'm sure you guys have seen. It's very similar to the Viking. If you guys didn't see any of the footage, the new car Hellion, or the new battle mode Hellion, has a shorter range, but it has a lot more hit points. So in the past, tanks just completely tear to shred Hellions, and Hellions were not very much used in the late game. Now, in the video that they showed, tanks, if the Hellions try to focus down the Marines, and then say the Warhounds try to attempt to focus down on siege tanks, it's a very nice 1-2 punch, as the blue flame tech can easily destroy a lot of Marines, and then the Warhounds are able to use their railguns from a range of 7 from fairly far away and deal damage as well. So that is a definite ability. I'll try to take a look at the numbers, but I wanted to more talk about the general feel of the game as opposed to the numbers, as the numbers are most likely going to change well into the Heart of the Swarm beta. Now, the Ghost Cloak ability has been changed in that it does not require energy to maintain. It is a one-time cost in order to cloak, and while you're cloaked, you still regenerate energy, but it is set for a set duration. So it is very, very helpful. You can manage your cloak a little bit better if you're trying to drop a nuke and you cloak in, and then you can refresh your cloak without stopping the nuke. Also, it makes you a little bit more smart in that you don't have to worry about cloaking and decloaking, going back and forth, trying to maintain your energy. The system already does that for you. Now, the Reaper also has the ability to regenerate hit points, but their D8 charges were removed. So Reapers are now an even better, more effective harassment unit. A lot of the times Reapers will jump in, try to deal some damage, and then jump out. But since they have so low hit points, they really can't do anything else except for if they try to jump back in, there may be some static defense there, or they have to wait for medevacs to heal them. So I really like this. It really brings the Reaper into the mid game just a little bit more, and then from the mid to the late game, you have the Warhound in order to deal with light units in those larger battles. And the battlecruiser also has the speed boost ability called the Red Line Reactor, which is governed by a cooldown. It gives it, I believe, a faster movement speed, and I haven't seen exactly how fast it is, but that is something definitely the battlecruiser needed in order to really stay competitive. The Tempest seems to have a pretty fast movement speed from what I've seen in the video so far. I think it's like a 2.81. So with the capital ships and with the capital ship Tempest being much faster, the battlecruiser also needed an upgrade. Broodlords, not so much, since they are a siege unit. They wanted to make sure that the Broodlords were perhaps a little bit further away. But then again, I wouldn't mind seeing the Broodlord perhaps get a movement speed to 1.88. At least the same movement speed as an Overlord with the pneumatized, or actually no, 1.88, is that the speed of a pneumatized Carapace Overlord? Not 100% sure. At least a Thor walking on the ground. Now, I will finally be going into the Zerg. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.